His coach Darren Sammy called for a better performance from his batsmen.
You cannot be scoring the slowest and facing the least amount of overs. Either you score faster to bring the game closer or you bat more overs. We have selected a squad that allows you to do, well, should allows you, or heading, looking to do both. You know, at the end of the day, I believe you go about 150 overs in the first innings to really put yourself in contention for a result that is not on the losing side.
Well, the new Test coach also says the result in Barbados did not force any changes to the team.
We just started a Test championship, and we believe that 11 we put was probably the most balanced one we could. After one game, there's no need for panic or whatever. It's about, you know, starting the culture, starting a brand, starting a way of play that, you know, guys got to get a fair chance in performing, not an opportunity to perform.
All right, our cricket analyst, Fazir Mohammed, he joins us on the show now. All right, welcome to the show, Faz. So good that we can have you.
Good to be on the show once again.
All right, so Faz, I think let's start with some of the sound bites that we heard from head coach Darren Sammy. And I'm going to start by talking about the last one, which is no changes to the last Test team. Are you surprised by that decision?
Not at all. I think the only reason there would be any change if it would have to be issues off the field of play. And we know there are lots of things swirling around that we're not going to talk about now. But certainly, in fairness, when you talk about bringing people back from 2-3 years out of Test cricket, or players who are now getting an opportunity, or players who are still trying to establish themselves at Test match cricket, you don't just jettison everyone who has failed after one match. So it's reasonable to think that the West Indies will go into the match with an unchanged 11, despite losing heavily inside 3 days. It might not make a lot of sense to people who are saying, no, you chop and change and whatever. But really, can we say with any degree of confidence that the alternatives who are available have a better than even chance of doing better than those who are in the team right now? So I agree with the coach in this sense.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, he also addressed the batting, which is a glaring problem. We've spoken about that numerous times on this show. Earlier today, you know, I was doing some checks, and Faz, I found out that the overall batting average of this West Indies squad is 20.85, and they were comparing it to all the 12 Test nations. And, you know, sometimes you know you have a problem, but then when you see the numbers, it just paints the picture even clearer. You heard what the coach had said. What do you make of those comments?
Well, he's got to be optimistic. He's talking about batting 150 overs. That would be fantastic if the West Indies could bat 150 overs in the first innings of the Grenada Test match. And incidentally, the last time, as you mentioned in the introduction, the last time the West Indies played there in 2022, the West Indies won by 10 wickets before lunch on the fourth day against England to take the Richards Botham Trophy at that time. So again, it really depends on the West Indies actually buckling down and batting properly. It's of course easier said than done, because not just a case of whatever the nature of the pitch, but the quality of the opposition. Because even on the flattest surface, if you have disciplined bowlers who will bowl a tight line and limit your scoring opportunities, they'll play on your patience. They'll play on the fact that, as you said quite correctly, the numbers are very ordinary. The fact is that West Indies, for a long time, have been mired in mediocrity. And getting out of that is an extreme challenge, because we just don't seem to work towards excellence, to reward excellence. We seem content with celebrating mediocrity. And that's a huge challenge for the West Indies to get over.
Yeah, and speaking about that batting problem, speaking about mediocrity, speaking about being in a slump phase, I think about, you know, the fact that Craig Brathwaite, of course, he's no longer the captain of the Test team, and he is a player that has always stepped up, you know. One of the things when Craig came to the crease, you'd be like, okay, you're going to get some runs out of him. Whether he bats exciting or not, he's going to stay there, he's going to put his head down, and he's going to bat. But then I look at the numbers, and the last 6 innings, he scored 12 or less, you know. So there's a narrative now, and I'll put it to you. Does he keep his spot in the side if he doesn't continue to score with the bat, especially because he no longer has that captaincy hat.
No, he doesn't. But let's not play games. Let's not pretend that we don't know that Craig Brathwaite is playing right now for 100 test matches, which happens with this test match. All congratulations to him, because I don't think you could ever question his dedication, his willingness, his effort. But his numbers are again ordinary, averaging just about 35. In 99 test matches. And again, as you pointed out, he's struggled of late, although again, towards the end of the short series in Pakistan, that half century, that quick fire 50 made a difference in setting up the West Indies for that series leveling victory. But if he fails again in this is 100th test match, the 10th West Indian to do so, that could very well be the last West Indian to play 100 test matches if things continue to trend the way they are. And he plays a final test match in Jamaica, the day-night one, and fails again. Is that the end of his test career? So I think the reality is, as much as we want to acknowledge his dedication, his commitment, his willingness to do whatever it takes for the cause of the West Indies, the fact is that his numbers reflect the ordinariness of West Indies cricket.
Yeah, and fast growing up, right, in an Indian household, Trinidad and Tobago, one of the things I always believed, well, I always would hear my grandparents say is like, naming a child is so important, right, because that name goes with them forward. And I'm thinking about Shea Hope because he's going to be the next discussion point with you. And he has really brought some hope into the setup, if I'm to say that, with his batting. The first test we saw him, and again, he looked steady, I have to say. Brandon King as well, we saw intent, we saw a bit of application from him, despite all the catching problems that they had. So eyes will now be on both of them to, of course, help when it comes to the batting. They say the track is supposed to favor batting, the pitch.
Indeed, it might favor batting, but as I said, that assumes that the bowlers will serve up juicy half volleys and short pitch deliveries that you could dispatch to all parts. It's Australia. Therefore, that's not going to happen. They might have the odd bad period, but they're going to be very disciplined with their attacks. They're going to be persistent. They're going to be working on a particular line. So yes, in the case of Shea Hope, and Hope is his family name, so he wasn't given that. That's not his given name. But yes, he played well. And there's all that controversy about the manner of his dismissal in the first innings. And indeed, umpire Holstock is going to be on the field for this second and third test match. So will that create an interesting dynamic with him on the field, given what has been said both by the captain and by the coach? But to your point about Brandon King, about Shea Hope, about everyone else, about Casey Carty, all of these players, bottom line, have to rise above their mediocre numbers, because you could, as I said, at the risk of sounding repetitive, you could dress it up how much you want. The fact is their numbers are extremely ordinary, hence that overall average of 20 point something, as you pointed out. So again, it's up to those players to respond to the challenge, and if they're not up to it, it's going to be another heavy defeat for the West Indies.
Faz, there is one player who is on the bubble and could actually get out of the starting lineup, and we're talking about vice captain himself, Jamel Warrican, who really didn't feature as much as we anticipated in that first test, or maybe we did anticipate him not featuring as much based on how the pitch was playing. But the ironic thing that a fast bowler could come in for him in Anderson Phillip. I know you mentioned that it makes sense to continue with the 11, but based on the lack of production, so to speak, from Warrican, or his use really in that first test, do you see that change possibly happening then?
It is possible. I mean, it is quite obvious that certainly in the mind of the captain, Roston Chase, that his vice captain is superfluous to requirements. I mean, you had an 80-something run partnership in the first innings, and at no point did there seem to be any inclination to at least give Warwick an opportunity to bowl and maybe challenge the batsman, present something different. In the second innings, likewise, he only came on with a partnership nearing 100. So again, it reflects an unwillingness to use him. Is it that he's only going to play when it's a raging turner? Is it that it's now an embarrassment to drop him because you've named him as vice captain? So is he a sure pick? Is he a non-playing vice captain as an option? So these are the conundrums created by the powers that be in West Indies cricket, by one, putting Jomel Warrican as vice captain, and two, having a captain who's loath to use him.
You know, we talk about batting and bowling all the time, and um, you know, saying that those are the highest skills in Test cricket in particular. And the thing about it is that with our fielding in the first Test, where 7 catches were dropped, I believe, it really highlighted how far behind we are in the game in terms of putting on the pressure and taking certain scenarios that are produced in the game seriously. And I can't recall a team operating so poorly in the field in regards to their dropped chances coming out on top in any form of cricket, not to mention Test cricket. That has to be where the focus is, right? Because although we did relatively well in restricting the Aussies, it could have been even stricter what we held them to.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no excuse for it. You could dress it up. You could say all sorts of different things. The angle, the lighting, the fact that there are hardly any spectators. The blue and yellow seats might have distracted you. Whatever. The point is that you would think, if nothing else, that fielding, catching, basics, and we're not talking about blinders, extremely difficult catches. Most of the catches that were put down was straightforward. And then you'll hear the apologists say, well, no slip catch is straightforward. No gully catch is straightforward. But then everything is impossible there. The point is, we're talking relative. And we're talking the highest level of the game, which is Test match cricket. And really, there should be no allowance, no excuse for that sort of performance that we saw on the field. And certainly not just from a West Indies point of view, but from a cricketing point of view. You can't have that many catches being dropped so easily and expect to actually be competitive in a Test match.
From the Aussie standpoint, Faz, Steve Smith returns. And he's coming in at number 4. He probably won't be feeling in the slips, but who cares, right? The biggest issue that we face is probably getting him dismissed. The West Indies bowling, I suppose the bowlers have to be a lot more disciplined against the quality batsman that is a Steve Smith.
I suppose Shamar Joseph will say, that's my rabbit. He got him with his very first ball in Test match cricket in Adelaide in 2024. So yes, Steve Smith has a phenomenal record, a tremendous reputation. The last time he was here, he scored 199 at Sabina Park, and Australia won by 271 runs. So he comes with that reputation. But you can't play the reputation. You have to play the individual. So you have to work out, how is he vulnerable early on? Almost every cricketer, male, female, young, old, has a sense of vulnerability early on. What do you do to produce the unplayable delivery? Is it something on or about the off stump? Is it full length, swinging into the pads? What do you work out as your strategy to go after him? And do you have the resources and the discipline in your bowling armory to effect that? And also, if it goes to hand, do you have the fielders to take the catch? So yes, on paper, Steve Smith coming in for Josh Inglis suggests an even tougher time for the West Indies in the bowling department as far as getting Australia out. But once more, it really depends on how well you play your game, how well you plan, how well you execute, and then you might have a fighting chance.
As far as the wicket is concerned, there's a lot more coverage of grass, albeit it's dead grass, isn't it? Which probably indicates that the pitch is expected to last all 5 days, but I don't think that's happening. But in regards to how the pitch will play, obviously it's going to be better than Kensington Oval, where quite a few wickets would have fallen 40 inside 3 days. But what are you hearing? What are you anticipating ahead of the second test?
It really depends. And looking on from this distance, because of course I'm here in Trinidad and Tobago, you're never quite sure what is going to happen. Yes, it might be dead grass, it might be live grass. At the end of it, might have nothing to do with the grass, might have to do with the aptitude and the way the West Indies batsmen go about their task. If they're batting first, if they're batting second, whatever it is. As you said, the pitch might last 5 days, the match probably won't. Because once more, again, you're talking about players who have yet to develop consistently that ability to bat for long periods. So you have a situation where you're going to have the opponents, whether it be Hazelwood, whether it be Cummins, whether it be Stark, whether it be Lyon, whether it be Bo Webster, or even a bit of Travis Head, if there's a long partnership that they're trying to break, who are going to come up with something, who are going to come up with different challenges that test you, not just in terms of your technique, but your temperament. You might have the odd long hop, the love me or leave me delivery that you're looking to hit out of the ground and you only find deep mid-wicket. These are the variables of Test match cricket, Donald, that as you know only too well, make it such a challenging game because you could win a session. You could be 95 for 2 after the first session tomorrow, which would be a win for the West Indies if they're batting first, but then you could be all out by tea. These are the many different challenges, and therefore it requires you to be able to concentrate, to be able to on the down periods, to be able to resummon that concentration when it's required. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but then again, this is why it's called Test cricket, and it's really up to those players to play beyond their numbers, bat for long periods, build partnerships, and possibly put a challenging total on the board.
Yeah, and Faz, as we put a lid on this discussion, call the result for me.
Australia win. Because again, I mean, it's not about saying what you want to happen or what you hope will happen. It's what you think will happen based on all the evidence, based on all of the variables that are attached to it. So the West Indies are going to have to perform out of their skins, beyond their mediocre numbers to challenge Australia. But for the moment, it's Australia 2-0 after this test match.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere fast because we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we continue talking cricket, and this time cricket being included in the Pan Am Games. So up on a break, we'll be right back.